Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today's info session on the digital health technologies for the prevention and personalized management of mental disorders and their long-term health consequences. My name is Rui. I'll be the moderator for the session. I'm joined by Elisabetta Valdano, who's going to be presenting the topic, and we also have Desmond from the legal in the room with us, and Carolina as well. She's online. So we'll just start the session. But before we start, so we are recording the session as well as all the sessions from the IHI Call Days. And once this is available, we'll publish this information on the website. All information regarding future IHI call topics is indicative and subject to change. File and information about the future IHI calls will be communicated after approval by the governing board. So I'm just giving the floor to my colleague, Elisabetta.
Good afternoon, everybody. And so I hope that you all hear me well. And so just to say what this session today will cover and not cover. So I will give you a very, very quick introduction to the IHI program. And then I will go to explain you a little bit about this IHI call topic, what are the challenges, the need for a public-private partnership collaborative approach to address it properly, the scope, the outcome and impact, and the budget. And there will be also a very short presentation on the proposal submission, evaluation, and preparation tips. So it's not in the scope of this session to talk about rule and procedure or how to prepare the financial proposal. We have dedicated webinar, one that was this morning and one that will be tomorrow, where you will be able to hear all the nitty-gritty elements for these important aspects. So first of all, just to say, this is a topic that is launched under the Innovative Health Initiative, which is the new EU partnership in health under Horizon Europe, and is a partnership on one side, the European Union, that is represented by the European Commission, so the Horizon Europe program, and on the other side, the Healthcare Industry Association, which are COSIR, that is represented the industry of the medical imaging, radiotherapy, health, ICT, electromedical industries, the FPIA, including Vaccine Europe, so the pharmaceutical and vaccine industries, Europa Bio, which is represented biotechnology industry, and MedTech Europe, so that is the medical technology industry, including medical devices and diagnostics. So IHI has a legislation which include some general objective, which is really the most important one, is really to try to turn health research and innovation into real benefit for patient and society. In short, move what we have in the lab to the bench, from the lab to, to the bed, and really to the healthcare system. And to do so, it is necessary then to foster the delivery of safe, effective healthcare innovation that cover the entire spectrum of care. So considering from prevention to diagnosis and treatment, in particular in areas where there is an unmet public health need. And also, of course, to make Europe's health industry globally competitive. The scope of IHI is delineated in its strategic research and innovation agenda, which clearly explain and describe the focus of IHI, that is really to develop some cross-sectorial approaches to facilitate the creation of new products and services to prevent, intercept, diagnose, treat and manage diseases and foster recovery more efficiently. So the goal, as explained in the SRIA, is that really to lay the foundation for development of safer and more effective healthcare product or solution that respond to unmet public health needs and that can be implemented into healthcare systems. And what is also very important to remember is the research support and the innovation supported by IHI should remain at pre-competitive level. So in principle, the direct development of product and services, it goes a little bit beyond what is the scope of IHI, because really we want to support public-private partnership with the good spirit of working together and being able to share learning and activity in order really to create a good basis for the future. So the topic that I'm going to present today is a single stage topic. So, which means that this call, once it's launched, will be open to consortia that have to include from the start all the actors that need to be together to implement the activity and give the success to the specific project created by a proposal. So it is clear that it is very important that all the necessary actors join together to the a proposal submission, and they form and write a good proposal. And these proposals will be then submitted to competitive evaluator by independent experts. There will be a ranking list, and as long as there is budget, and as long that the proposals are over the threshold, that will be the possibility to get funded. And then once the proposal has been evaluated and considered the ranking list to in the margin of the budget that allow for funding and is over threshold, then there will be the possibility to enter in the preparation phase of the grant, and then finally sign the grant agreement and start the activity. So now a little bit about this topic. I like to stress that this is a single stage topic. That means that it is about broad in scope, but nevertheless, the topic also includes some very precision point on expectation of what applicant should consider for their proposal. So please read it very carefully, because this will be really the Bible that will be looked by and considered by the evaluator when they will have to evaluate the submission. So first of all, what is the challenge that this topic would like to address? Is that of mental health disorders that represent a clear area of severe unmet public health need, which actually has been further compounded by the COVID. As you know, there has been really an explosion of people that have been suffering from mental health disorders, which also imply further pressure on healthcare system that, especially in this area, are already understaffed, under-resourced, and having a big pressure. So then is important also the fact that people with mental disorders not only have the challenges on for their disease from the mental, let's say, point of view, but there is also clear evidence that they have a reduced life expectancy compared to the general population. And this is often linked to a greater risk of developing a range of chronic physical conditions, which can be either comorbidities that are seen together with the mental health condition, but also long-term physical consequences. However, considering the fact that very often psychiatry is sort of considered something apart from other branch of medicine, and the fact that also doctors often are not specifically trained in understanding this important aspect of comorbidity and the physical consequences of mental health condition, this means that there's been quite poor attention to the management of the comorbidity of mental health disorders, which of course is another important challenge. On this, considering the above challenges, now digital health technology might have really a potential to address some of this and really help for the prevention, the prediction, the monitoring and personalized management of mental disorders and their long-term health consequences, as well as to tackle some of the organizational issue in providing mental health care in a proper way. In all this, why this is a really ideal topic to be tackled under IHI. It's really important that to tackle and achieve the outcome and the impact in this topic, good public-private cross-sectorial collaboration and collaborative effort are created. This is because an appropriate multi-stakeholder and cross-sectorial public-private partnership is really needed to achieve the outcome and impact of this topic. And this is in particular for 2 points, because for delivering learning a sustainable outcome of value across the ecosystem, this has to be created with a buy-in all the important stakeholders. And this is also important if you want really to foster the development, evaluation, and best use of digital health technology in general, and more specifically in this field. And second, because it's of paramount importance to have the people with mental disorders and their families and caregivers as active partners in all activity of such initiative, if we really want to ensure the results fit their needs, and therefore they will be then effectively adopted and will be continued to be used by the different stakeholders. So in this context, what is the scope of the topic? The scope is really to investigate how digital health technology might positively impact the healthcare pathway for people with mental disorders. And in this field, there is really applicant have the liberty and to choose the specific mental disorder where they want to apply their proposal. But of course, they have to carefully justify their choice based, of course, on the unmet public health need, on the impact on quality of life of people with mental disorders and also their family and caregiver, as well also have a consideration on the feasibility and preliminary evidence available on the use and value of the digital health technology in this specific mental disorders. And then, of course, on the in the scope, the applicant will have to demonstrate how this technology might enable better prevention and prediction of disorder onset and/or relapse, better disease management, tackling comorbidities, and here importantly also the topic text indicated that applicant will have to choose which comorbidity or comorbidities they like to tackle with a proper justification. And please read in the topic text for the element that they have to be considered in this matter. And also address what are long-term health consequences. It can be, for example, cardiovascular diseases or diabetes in this population. In the tackling all the point indicating the scope, it is important that the applicant will aim to deliver robust evidence on how digital health technology eventually may be made easy to adopt and use in a sustained way, both by the people with mental disorders, the family and caregiver, but also the health and care providers, which can be specifically, let's say, in the healthcare system, but not to forget that for this type of disorder, it is also very important other actors, like, for example, social workers, psychologists, that are very important for the treatment and the care of this individual. And then, of course, they have to consider how to effectively incorporate into clinical research and clinician workflows digital health technology. And for this, it's extremely important that the applicant consider also a proper strategy to engage with regulators, like, for example, considering how to address the scientific advice, or also to work with the Innovation Task Force of EMA. So it is important also that there are some expected outcomes from this topic, and applicants are expected to address all of the outcomes that are listed in the topic text. The first is important that there is, as an outcome, robust evidence on the feasibility, acceptability, adherence, and personal satisfaction with digital health technologies in people with mental disorders. This is why, because this is known that is a pretty important problem, that indeed the fact that adherence and it is a big challenge in the use of these digital technologies. It is also important that the applicant consider the creation of a flexible digital platform that can be used across different conditions and scenarios to collect all the necessary data that can be multimodal clinical data and patient data, like, for example, including also prompts and PREMs, and especially, of course, data generated by digital technologies, and also, of course, to analyze and integrate this diverse data in order to then provide the outcome, the sufficient results and good results for the project and in the future after the project is finished. It is also an expected outcome to develop some effective and agreed guidelines for the development and implementation of digital health technology in clinical research and health and care, really always keeping the patient at the center, both what we are talking about intervention, but also better disease prevention. And please, again, there are quite a lot of detail on what should be considered important for developing these guidelines, and also the type of activity and evidence that should be developed and delivered by the applicant in order then to get to these guidelines. Of course, another important outcome is robust knowledge for better understanding of mental disorders, their changes over time, and how this related to clinical outcome. Another important outcome is also, again, robust data to enable the development of digital tools that can optimize the engagement of people with mental disorder, caregiver, and other relevant actors, including, of course, all important aspects to ensure this sustainability of what is created. Enhancement and more reliable tool and methods is also another expected outcome. This can be, for example, the analytical tools and algorithms that should be able to provide near real-time feedback on the digital health technologies, and therefore being able to create the also quite linked to the above outcome. And last but not least, also important robust evidence on how digital health technology might influence the treatment or behavior of people with mental disorders. In the long term, it's expected that the outcome of the project will contribute to impact, which has, of course, first of all, enhanced cross-sectorial collaboration to foster sustained and patient-centered innovation in digital health technology for mental health care, and also to create a preparedness of the healthcare system for the implementation, integration of the data health technologies with existing clinical care strategy, thereby also decreasing the burden on staff. Of course, for the patient is a hope that this will lead to prevention, earlier, more precise diagnosis, more clinical effective intervention and monitoring, better patient adherence, and reduce hospitalization. It is important that also keeping always the patient and the family in the center, that there will be a demonstration of the added value of digital health technology for the management care and improve the experience of people with mental disorders and their family caregiver. This is necessary for a broader and sustained application of digital health technology in healthcare. It is hoped that this will also create an impact on the healthcare system as a more cost-effective care pathway management for people with mental disorders, and also that there will be a contribution to the upcoming European health data space by contributing data that can be really shareable and are suitable for them being, of course, further part of this important initiative that is now in this building phase. And last but not least, is important also that there will be knowledge and learning on mental disorder, long-term impact on physiology and physical health for better overall health and well-being also of the population, and especially for people with mental health disorders. This topic has a total budget of 24 million of public funding that it is available, let's say, as a basket. But in this 24 million, then while IHI estimated that a financial contribution around 6 to 8 million would allow a proposal to address a topic outcome appropriately, it is also up to the applicant to come with their best proposal for a budget for their proposal. But this, of course, will have always to be justified. Very important, as has also already been mentioned today in the previous webinar on rule and procedure, at least 45% of the total budget of each project must be covered by contribution provided either by IHI program member or by contributing partners. And this is an eligibility criterion. So if your proposal doesn't include at least 45% of contribution as part of the total cost, then this means that it will not even come to the evaluator because it will be found not eligible. For what concerns the duration that you can propose for achieving the outcome of your result of your proposed project, this is really up to you as applicants, but of course it is something that also will be part of the evaluation. Therefore, it is important that you choose your duration in well matching it to the project activity and expected outcome impacts. So please, when you write your work plan, try to make something that really makes sense and with all your objective, the deliverable, etc., because this will be carefully analyzed by the evaluators. Last but not least, in Horizon Europe, there is a lot of emphasis on dissemination, exploitation, and communication. So it's really important that you consider how to communicate and disseminate results throughout the full lifespan of the project. Just even starting from day one, to create a new partnership with actors that normally do not work together can be already quite an achievement and something to be communicated. So you can have actually something to communicate even very early when you start your project and you've been awarded the grants. But then it is very important that you also demonstrate, and this will be very carefully analyzed by the reviewer, that you have a good plan for dissemination and exploitation measure to maximize really the impact. And for this topic is also very important that you consider including elements in line with the availability, accessibility, and affordability, the so-called 3A provision, since this is indeed part of the condition for this topic. It is important, as I said, that you plan communication measure for promoting the project ethics finding, and that you have also include a short description of the dissemination, exploitation, and communication activities together with the impact pathway in the proposal. And this is something that you must not forget, because it is an admissibility condition. So all proposals will be checked before they are sent to the evaluators. And if this is not included, then your proposal will be found not admissible. And then also remember that you are expected to have a full-fledged dissemination, exploitation, and communication plan to be submitted as a deliverable after 6 months of the project. And then, as is considered in this diagram that you have here, remember that then you will have also to show that you will continue to do this activity. So it's not just enough, okay, we have a starting plan, but you have also to consider strategically how your planning will have to evolve in the project, and therefore also submit and consider a relevant updated during the duration of the project, considering the time until from the beginning to the end of the project, but also beyond, since exploitation and dissemination results will continue much further, and maybe also communication of results. And here is just a little snapshot of the table that you have to fill as part of the proposal, and give you really your sort of the way that you have to start thinking. So your proposal is addressing some specific needs that you want to that are triggered, by this project. Then, of course, you expect to achieve certain results. And then, of course, if you want then to disseminate it properly and exploit them, you will have to consider good measure. So that is the one that you have, of course, to thoroughly consider and find also a strategy how to better shape and adapt this during the duration of your project. And for this, of course, you have to identify which target groups are important to be reached by the result of the project, who will be benefit from these results. And on the basis of that, you can define your outcome, so the change that you expect to see after successful dissemination, exploitation of the project by the target groups. And then via this, what will be the expected wider scientific, economic, and societal effect of this activity if they are successful. And of course, it is very important that you reserve budget and resources for this activity, and that also include a good expertise. So have also good expert on dissemination, exploitation, and communication as part of your team. This is really important. So now let's come a little bit on the more, let's say, concrete things. So how do you submit your proposal? How will be evaluated? So this has been already explained today. So this is really just a little in the previous webinar. So it's really a little snapshot. So you know you will have a part A that you will fill online with all the necessary data, who you are, and etc. Then you have a part B, which is the narrative part with different sections: the excellence, the impact, the quality, and efficiency of the implementation. All these are important because they correspond to 3 equally important evaluation criteria. There are very specific instructions that are provided to help you to really write well all this section, and some has been also have some specificity that correspond to the need and the mission of IHI. So please remember to read carefully the template that is provided for you. Then you have also some annexes. One is the one on the participant type. Then there are different annexes for the budget detail. One is very importantly is also the declaration of the coordinator, where he declared that you have at least the important 45%. But this, of course, will have to also be in correspondence to the other budgetary table. So you will have the budget where you have the in-kind contribution, ECOP and EKA. You have a table on where you have to describe your, in case you have this in-kind for additional activities. And then last but not least, if you plan to do a clinical study, then you are also expected to fill a clinical study template. And this is compulsory. So please remember that. So when you come to the evaluator, so you have been found eligible, you have the 45%, everybody's happy about that. And now you come to the evaluators. So the evaluators, which are a panel of different experts with very multidisciplinary expertise that correspond to the different aspects that need to be tackled in a successful proposal, will first of all consider the excellence of your proposal. And the first criterion is how clear is your proposal, how pertinent it is to of the project objective in line with what is expected in the topic text. Of course, they will also look at how ambitious is your work, but still feasible, and how it goes beyond state of the art in achieving the objective of the topic. Most importantly, also the expert will look at the soundness of the proposed methodology, including, of course, all the underlying concept, the model, the assumption, how is interdisciplinary, how is appropriate with consideration of the gender dimension in research, and of course the quality of the open science practice, including sharing and management of research output and engagement of the citizens, civil societies, and end user where appropriate. And indeed for this topic is extremely important, this aspect. The second evaluation criteria is that of impact. And there, the evaluator will look at what you have put in your proposal, and looking for the pathway that you have proposed for achieving the expected outcome impact and how these are credible, in line, of course, of what is in your topic. But also, for example, there will be always a consideration on what you write that you will achieve in this pathway, and of course, what are you proposing to do in the different work packages in your activities. And so it is extremely important that you are very coherent in your proposal. And of course, also the likely scale and significance of the contribution that your project will provide. They will also look at the suitability and quality of the measure to maximize expected outcome and impact. And for this is, of course, very important what you will write in the section on the dissemination exploitation plan, including the communication activity. But also, please do not forget also the other element. Sometimes we find a proposal where there is a lot about communication, while the other aspect that are dissemination and exploitation, there can be also aspect of sustainability of the result obtainable approach are not equally successfully developed. So please be very careful to include all necessary elements in your proposal. The last but not the least criterion that the evaluator will use to score your proposal is the quality and efficiency of the implementation. And here they will look at the quality effectiveness of the work plan, and the assessment of risk, and the appropriateness of the effort assigned to work packages and the resources overall, which will be, of course, both the resources that are paid via the grant, but also the resources that are provided as contributions. So it will be a global evaluation of how the public-private partnership that is created by your consortium is able to deliver what it is promised. And then, of course, we look at the capacity and role of each participant and the extent to which the consortium as a whole brings together the necessary expertise. So now a few tips for you, how you prepare your proposal. I think I gave you already a few while I was talking, but now there are a few more. Well, the first one is quite obvious, but we see that it's not so obvious for many applicants, unfortunately, because still we see that people do not read carefully all the call relevant material, especially the topic text. But remember that there are also elements that are in the call condition, which is in the work program, and also in the guide for applicants. So you should really try to read in parallel these three documents. Then it takes time to write a good proposal. So form your consortium as early as possible and think always public-private partnership. How are you creating a good public-private partnership where all the members have a role and there is a good engagement both in the activity but also in at the level of the governance in a public-private partnership spirit? And remember to include partner bringing in-kind contribution, otherwise you will not be eligible. And then please ensure that all information requested in the call text and proposal template is provided to allow the evaluation expert to easily assess your proposal against the evaluation criteria. A proposal that is written clearly and in a complete way is always much better, let's say, taken by the expert at the proposal that is more fuzzy and where it is more difficult for the expert evaluator to find the different elements. So really try to be helpful for the reviewer. This will be helpful for you. And then, of course, consider and plan for the potential regulatory impact of results. This is also explicitly indicated in the topic text, and so please pay attention to this element. Well, of course, as I said, you need to build or join a consortium, and that's good that you are already here. That means you have already a good tick, and I hope you will be able to use all the tools that are provided by our info days. Also, looking at making some good meeting with people that could be interested to join a consortium with you, or also pitch your idea and your proposal. Of course, then there is also the EU-funded Entire Portal Partner Search Tool, and then use your IHI national contact points, and of course also use all the networking possibility that you have on social media. And just say, of course, there is the possibility to book your meetings, and there are 4 easy steps which are indicated in this paper. Well, first of all, make yourself available. Then look, of course, for a partner that can be interesting, and then you can select the date, time, attendee, and a message, and then send the message request and wait for the reply. And also remember that this platform is not going to close now with the info day, but will be open long term until at least the 20th of April 2023. So, and then you have more information, of course, in the guideline. Now, just one additional slide, just to give you a little example, because we know that it's so complicated to think and build your budget. And just for a single stage call. And just remember that you have different terminologies. Of course, you have, if you think about the partner that you put together in your consortium, you will have the so-called public partners that in short, it means the one that want to finance their activity via the public funding. And let's say in this example, for example, in the first line, we have a public partner that want to be funded by 15 million. They have 15 million of total eligible cost, and they require 15 million. And they don't have anybody providing in-kind contribution. So this is already a consortium which unfortunately will even not get to the evaluation because they clearly are not eligible. Or otherwise, but what is needed is that you have to have some contribution. And in this case, you could have also the members that require contributing, that require some funding, and they do not request that do not, sorry, that require funding, and the member that instead have some contribution and would not require any public funding. This is sort of the clear difference between contributing partners and public partners. And together they have then each a contribution that get to at least in this case 50% of contribution, and this will give an eligible proposal. Or you can also have the so-called hybrid model, where the private member and contributing partners, they both provide a contribution and also ask for some funding. Also, this case is possible, but in this case, you have to be a little bit more careful with your calculation, because of course you will still have to have at least with 45%, and we recommend 50% trying to aim for private funding, just to be a little bit prudent if something goes wrong, and then maybe you get approved, but then during the gap maybe there are some complication, and some of the entities that are contributing drop off for different reasons, and then you find suddenly that you are not anymore eligible. And also remember that this also during all the lifetime of a project, this eligibility must be kept for your project to be still funded and receive the public funding and therefore be paid. So it is really important that you try to have a bit of a prudent approach and aim it to a little bit more than 45%. And we recommend to get around this 50% threshold. And here you have just identified for the different pitching section. So today we have one that is start at 15:30 for this specific topic. So I hope that many of you will be able to attend this session. We have some interesting pitches I could see. And also, if of course you're interested in other section, here you can see all the ones that are planned. And I would like to thank you for your attention. Happy to take any question.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. We have one question for you regarding this topic, and I just wanted to remind the attendees, if you want to ask questions, you can always go to the chat and just write down your question, and we'll answer it. So the first question is, should the platform focus on one disease or be usable across different conditions? Can you elaborate on what you mean by conditions?
Well, I think for this, I would like to refer you on the topic text. And here there are some, in the brackets, you can find the specification, what could be considered numerous conditions and scenarios. And here is written various mental disorder, comorbidity, long-term health confident, and other disease areas. So it's a pretty broad. So then, of course, it will be again up to the applicant to justify and show how their platform has this flexibility.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. We have another question. It's regarding funding. Are Canadian academic institutions and SMEs eligible to receive funding from IHI in a program led by a EU institution?
So I can answer this. So they are third countries members. So in principle, under IHI, they are not eligible for funding. They are, of course, very welcome to participate, There might be also the opportunity for exceptional funding, but be very careful, because this is something that will be, if you decide to go that way, depends on the really the decision of the evaluation panel, that have to really decide and agree that what is contributed by this not in principle eligible for funding beneficiary, it cannot be found anywhere in an eligible country. So be very careful.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. The next question is, could you give us some examples of the regulators that should be part of a consortium?
Well, first of all, I mean, we have to, because there is two aspects. Of course, regulators are very welcome to be a part of the consortium, and can be regulators that can be, for example, member of a national regulator bodies, and that is again up to the applicant to decide who could be the best actors in their proposal. But also remember that one thing is to have regulator in the consortium, but the other is also to address the point that is clearly indicated in the topic text, on the fact that it's important to have a strategy how to engage which regulator, which is something a little bit different. So please, again, read very carefully the topic text.
Thank you very much, Elisabetta. Our next question is, would you consider the prevention of language disorders in children and neurodevelopment disorders in general as appropriate topics?
Well, unfortunately, I cannot give you an advice on this. This is really up to the applicant. You have to consider all points in the scope, and see if you can make a good argument for your proposal to be relevant. And remember, you have to address in your proposal all the outcome and impacts. So that's where you have to consider.
And the next question that we have is, can you quote IMI projects already addressing or having addressed the topic or part of the topic?
Well, again, here I have to, there is some indication in the footnote on the topic text, and I would prefer to leave it at this.
Thank you, Elisabeth. So just waiting if there's more questions from the audience.
Is your chance.
Great. So it seems that we don't have more questions at the moment. I just wanted to remind you that you can always reach us if you have any specific questions at applicants@ihi.europa.eu or to our info desk at ihi.europa.eu if you have any questions. Thank you very much for attending this session. The next session, as Elisabeth mentioned, is at 3:30, and we'll have a pitching session with 10 presentations on this topic. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.